its greatest Bigfoot encounters. Hosted by T.A. Wilson.
Hi, I'm T.A. Wilson, author of Bigfoot: An Evolutionary Perspective and In Pursuit of a Legend, 72 Days in California Bigfoot Country, and I'll be your host for Greatest Bigfoot Encounters. Unfortunately, our studio is shut down in the face of the coronavirus pandemic, so Mother Nature herself is serving as our stand-in. Not a bad trade-off, huh? Fortunately, we can be a pretty mobile unit when necessary. It goes without saying that these are difficult and unprecedented times from our perspective. And when we find ourselves in situations like these, it often becomes as much a mental as a physical battle, especially the longer the trial to endure. And from my own experience, hunkering down, being productive, contributing in whatever way you can, takes on even greater importance. Nature has innumerable manifestations, some dark, like those viruses we can't see, to those of wonder, like those 8-foot hominins we can't seem to see either. And why is that? Perhaps the answers lie in ecology, biology, sociology, anthropology. Or perhaps the answers lie in the human mind, in attitudes, in beliefs, in psychology. Perhaps all those disciplines have something to offer in our quest for the truth. Let's see what this episode has to offer. Sightings from a vehicle are one of the most common form of Bigfoot sightings, and they are almost always very sudden and jarring for an eyewitness. But sometimes it can go beyond even that, especially if we get a glimpse into true Bigfoot capabilities, which can be downright astonishing and also help explain why Bigfoot can be so elusive. We're going to go ahead and focus in on a particular Bigfoot ability in this episode, which, by the way, is an amalgamation of two separate incidents. And once you see the vehicle in this episode, you're going to know right away that you're being transported back to the 1960s and another greatest Bigfoot encounter. So, buckle up, strap in, let's rev up the queue. We've got our foot on the gas for this one, and excuse the obvious metaphors here. As usual, I'm going to be watching right alongside with you. What can I say? This is another one I gotta see again. Wow. Well, I guess lesson number one here is keep that speed in check on those back roads. You never know what form of wildlife might be crossing around the next curve. But let's go ahead and analyze this encounter and note important details. Speed, in case you hadn't noticed, was an overriding theme of this episode. And once that 65 Mustang was in gear, great car by the way, did you notice the various shots of the speedometer while the Bigfoot was giving chase? At 20 miles per hour, 30 miles per hour, 35 miles per hour? Let's go ahead, let's take another look at that. Even at 40 miles per hour, the Bigfoot was keeping right in stride with the vehicle. Only when the Mustang hit speeds beyond this, with a shot of the speedometer at 50 miles per hour, for example, did we see it quickly outpace a Bigfoot that was running at top speed. John Green, one of the most renowned Bigfoot researchers who wrote Sasquatch the Apes Among Us, compiled a database of over 4,000 eyewitness Bigfoot sightings. An astounding achievement, by the way, that's totally unrecognized by science. And sometimes when you have a database that large, some very uncommon data can be mined from it. When I searched through the database, I was able to compile a number of incidents where an eyewitness was traveling by vehicle and not only had a Bigfoot encounter, but the Bigfoot actually ran alongside the vehicle, and the eyewitness was able to note how fast the vehicle was going. There were 13 incidents in the database where the eyewitness noted that the Bigfoot was running alongside the vehicle at the same precise speed. There were a couple incidents at 20 miles per hour. The Bigfoot likely just running alongside, keeping pace with the vehicle at this speed. A couple incidents at 30 miles per hour. A couple incidents at 35 miles per hour. And there were 4 incidents where the eyewitness noted that the Bigfoot was running alongside the vehicle at 40 miles per hour. Now, granted, these are not a lot of incidents, as we might well expect. And we always have to be wary of smaller data sets, but the wonderful thing about these is that a speedometer is a reliable standard of measurement and can be used to accurately gauge top end running speeds of a Bigfoot, which seem to top out at approximately 40 miles per hour. There was also one other incident in the database where an eyewitness took the speed of the vehicle up to 50 miles per hour, and only then was he able to quickly outpace a Bigfoot that was running at top speed. Now, from an ecological perspective, from a predator-prey perspective, this is all very intriguing stuff and seems to fall nicely in place because mule deer, favored prey of Bigfoot, run at top speeds of approximately 35-36 miles per hour. So this means that a Bigfoot would just be able to slightly outpace a mule deer running at top speed. So, again, this falls nicely in place, makes perfect sense from a predator-prey perspective, from an ecological perspective, but as usual, examine the data for yourself, come to your own conclusions. So again, we have Mother Nature serving as our studio. Cities mere shadows of themselves, largely shut down by the coronavirus pandemic. People holed up behind walls and partitioned by them. And time for me to engage in my own form of social distancing, put on the backpack and venture into the wilderness. In my case, a new term perhaps for a long-standing behavior. I always thought of it as kind of solitude that comes with creating something new and unacknowledged and something that people will push back hard against. So the wilderness skills come in handy. I'll keep an eye out for Bigfoot, though of course it is a difficult proposition to encounter one. But let me let you in on a little secret. Although it seems counterintuitive, it is Bigfoot's sheer size, in association with its carnivorous tendencies, that allows it to escape detection. Now, critics will scoff and say nothing that size could elude mankind. And when they do that, they focus in on the small picture, the picture in microcosm, and I'm going to take that logic and I'm going to throw it right back at them. And I think I just hit a critic who forgot to duck. Man, that counterintuitive logic, that's got a little spin on it, doesn't it? It's kind of like a curveball. But the larger picture that so eludes the critics is that it's the sheer size of this hominin, in association with its carnivorous tendencies, that demands a larger, more expansive home range and lower population densities. If Bigfoot was smaller and a herbivore, it could have potentially run amok across the landscape and would have been long ago known to science, existing potentially in population densities approaching those of deer, for example, for the simple reason that the land can support higher densities of primary feeders, i.e. herbivores, that feed directly upon it. Even if Bigfoot was a large herbivore, it would still be known to science in the same way that the grill is known to science, because again, the land can support higher densities of primary feeders, i.e. herbivores. But if that was the case, Bigfoot would have no need to run sustained speeds of 40 miles per hour in order to track down and chase down prey. Add to this ecological picture Bigfoot elusiveness, Bigfoot camouflage, two great topics, by the way. We got to talk about those in future episodes. In addition to Bigfoot speed, which we just saw a wonderful example of, and you have all the ingredients for a hominin a la Bigfoot to escape widespread and hence scientific detection. But what do you think? Is the answer as obvious as these critics suggest, or is this just the ultimate example of pedantic thinking? Well, this concludes mini-season number 1 of Greatest Bigfoot Encounters. That went by too fast, and we barely scratched the surface in terms of analyzing Bigfoot traits and behavior. We'll have to go ahead and introduce some new topics for season number 2 and get that much closer to understanding the Bigfoot mystery. Until then, I've got the old backpack loaded up with various items that will hopefully get me through just about any contingency, unforeseen and otherwise. And if I don't return, I harbor no illusions that the world will miss me one bit. And speaking of contingencies, when you venture into the wilderness, there's always one last thing you have to acknowledge, no matter how remote. And that is that the world you leave behind may not be the world you return to, for better or worse. Hope to see you on season 2 of Greatest Bigfoot Encounters.
greatest Bigfoot encounters. Hosted by T.A. Wilson.